Hey friend, it's Dom. I am here with my coffee and I thought I'd just have a quick conversation with you. I'd love to speak with you about the topic of what most people don't realize. In my work, I get to encourage people to ask themselves the right questions because when the right questions are answered, almost always the right answers will present themselves by default. Because the fact is, we can't tell a person what the truth is. We can't. Each individual's truth is unique to them. If we try and tell a person what the truth is, they likely won't believe you. So the real truth can't be told, but it must be realized. Truth is something that is realized. So we've got to encourage people by asking those right questions so that they can have that light bulb moment. That is what I believe will ultimately serve people best and actually, in the long run, save the human society, because that's when the majority of people will begin realizing who and what they really are, when they begin stepping into their own personal truth, not the truth that belongs or belong to their parents, not the truth that society says is the truth, but really what is true for themselves. I believe that life is an emotional mirror for all of us. When I became a personal development and empowerment coach, I had to put myself into an emotional state of where I was a personal development and empowerment coach. And in the beginning, it was challenging. But after a few months, after 2 or 3 months, I began believing that I was in fact a personal development and empowerment coach. As I was doing my work, as I was going through my certifications, as I was practicing more and more and more. And it wasn't long, within just a few months, I began working as a personal development and empowerment coach full time. So we want to put ourselves into the emotional state of what and who we want to become. If you want your perfect partner in life, what would that be like to have them in your life? What would it feel like to have that person there with you? Put yourself into that emotional state where that person is already there with just only a prayer that has been answered. And you'll find more often than not that that person will just walk right into your life when you least expect it, because that's the way this works. I've done it. I know people that have done this, where they've changed their entire life by putting themselves right into the emotional state that they want to be in. So imagine for just a moment, what would it feel like for you? What would it feel like? I know a guy who asked himself this question: what would it feel like to have his own business doing what he loves and powerfully supporting and helping people? What would it be like to be in a relationship where someone loves you for who you are, just as you are, and supports you 100% unconditionally? What would that be like? And what would it be like to be raising a family and finding more harmony than disharmony within the family? Imagine what that would be like. For this one gentleman I know, it took about 2 years. And at the end of that 2 years, he could not believe how much his entire life had changed. His entire reality began changing. And it started by changing his emotional input into reality. That guy that I'm talking about is me. I'm that guy. And I have helped other people do this as well. And the amazing thing is, I really didn't have to do anything. A lot of this just happened over time and fell into place as I was putting myself into the feeling of putting myself into the emotional place of being, because that's the way this works. If we just allow ourselves to step outside of the box that we've put ourselves in and to allow ourselves to get comfortable becoming a little bit uncomfortable, we can put ourselves inside the emotional state of where things are maybe even not going so well, because sometimes that happens. We have to put ourselves into the emotional state, even when things aren't going so well, and still be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. What's that saying? When the going gets tough, the tough gets going, right? Well, I believe that when the tough gets going, I like to find the beautiful picture of what this is going to look like when it all ends at the end state. And I imagine for humanity that there is a beautiful future at the end of everything that we're experiencing right now, in spite of all of the crazy chaos that is going on in the world that we see going on outside of us. I believe that there's something coming that is really amazing. So we've got to get rid of all of this baggage that people have carrying around with them. We've got to stop worrying about everything going on. We have to stop worrying about everything so much and just realize how easily all of this can be changed for you. I want to invite you into how easily all of this can be changed for you. We've got to start with ourselves because it's so simple, but most people can't see the forest for the trees. They think things have got to be like this really big event in order for things to change, when in reality, it is a simple change of perspective that is needed here that will change everything. All of the opportunities are there for you to do it already. It's all up to you. Which do you choose to do? We have the privilege of choice, but it's all there. It's your choice. You get to do what you want to do. You get to create the experience you want to have. But all you've got to do is to find your true self first. What is true for you? And gain that awareness. Because gaining that awareness, that is half the test. That is half of what this is all about for us. You have these choices. You've got to have these choices for us to be able to move through this. We've got to have the dark as well as the light. We've got to have the dark as well as the light. Because without the dark, we'll never get the choice. We'll never get the choice to move into the light. We have to have the bad with the good, right? We've got to experience the bad in order to have the choice to make it good. You've got to have the choice to completely mess yourself up. Otherwise, how do you ever really choose to follow the moral high ground for yourself if you don't have the moral low ground there to begin with? You've got to have it there in order to have the choice in the first place. So you can't be hard on yourself about this. You can't be hard on yourself. Just allow yourself to stand in who you are and to stand in your truth courageously. And don't allow this decision to polarize you either. Because you will make mistakes. You will succumb to temptation along the way. It's just part of the learning experience and the journey for you that will ultimately lead you closer and closer for you to discover who you really are, what your personal truth is, not the truth that was instilled in you by your parents, not the truth that society says truth is, but your personal truth, what is right for you. But you've got to have the bad in order to have the good. We've got to have I almost spilled my coffee here. We've got to have our breakdown in order to have our breakthrough. We live in this world of duality. We live in this world of duality. So when we talk about people loving themselves, most people don't even know what love is. Most people think it's this warm, fluffy feeling. But my friend, love is simply the opposite of fear. Love is simply the opposite of fear. So I want to encourage you not to be afraid of being yourself, not to be afraid of standing in your own power and standing in your truth. Because most people are afraid of standing in their own power and in their own truth. They're terrified. They're terrified to stand up and say, excuse me, I don't want to do that, because they're in fear of being judged. And that's the problem. More people are even terrified of public speaking than they are of dying, which means that they're scared of someone hearing their thoughts and feelings about something. They are afraid to place themselves into a position of saying, I don't think the same of you. I think this. People are just too afraid to be themselves. People are too afraid to be their true selves. And in my mind, that's just crazy. People are too afraid to live, and they're too afraid to die. They're too afraid to be themselves because they've become lost in their own minds. They're scared of what's happened in the past, and they're scared of what's going to happen in the future. The majority of the time, most people don't know if they're going or they're coming. So how do people break out of this? Well, I have found personally, the first thing we have to do is to lead by example in what you do and the things that you offer them when we offer a better way to them, and encourage them, not by telling them what the truth is, but to ask themselves the right questions. And hopefully they'll get to that moment, that light bulb moment, and say, aha, and then begin making change. They have that huge self-realization that then cracks them open to wanting to do something different. And the moment that that occurs, it is such an amazing, beautiful thing to witness. People are amazing. They're beautiful. And people have so much potential. They have so much potential. Yet it's so frustrating to me just how simply we can change things. Like making a simple shift in perspective can change the world in seconds if people just had that realization. But we're so subservient to the system that we're living in because we're so afraid to be ourselves. So now is the time. It is such a great opportunity, this time right now, to believe in yourself, to trust yourself, to stand in your courage, and to stand in what is true for you. Because we're at a really important time right now. You have that power within. It is within you. So grab a hold of yourself and decide to make this life an amazing ride. Stand in your power, stand in your truth, and stand what's right for you. And so if you would like to receive more inspiration and support like this, I invite you to come on over into my free community, Pro Empowerment Online. I'm inside that community each week with a group of amazing, like-minded, and supportive people, sharing practical yet powerful ways for you to begin living out each day with what I've shared with you today. If you're not a member yet, I invite you to click on the Pro Empowerment Online link in the comments or description box below. And so until I see you for my next short video, I want to invite you to be well, be healthy, but most of all, be empowered.